Hi, third grade families. We are going to do a quick little tutorial on the fluency passages that we have that are coming home every week. So this one page is the outline of some different activities for you to do, and then this is the fluency passage. And I wanted to kind of teach you, I guess, how I would do this in my classroom, just in case you were unsure what the goals of each of these things were. And so I will kind of be going back and forth between these two pages just to kind of show you what to do. So the first day, the goal is to just kind of introduce the text to the kids. So the first thing that they're going to do is actually not even read the text. They're just going to look through the text to find some words that they think they might have a hard time with, or words that might be challenging for them. So sometimes I'll have them highlight them or underline them. This passage is a little bit more simple, but one of the big things that we notice is that they'll pick out the long words. And so in this example, this would probably be one of the words that I think that kids would pick out that they might need to stop and take a second look at. And your goal on day one is just to talk about the meanings of these words and help them chunk it apart to make it a word that they actually would know how to read, and spend the time before reading the passage to go over that word. And then after you talk about some of those words and their meanings, the goal then is to model to them correct fluency. So we don't want to read too fast. We don't want to read too slow. And one of the goals is to pay attention to periods and commas and exclamation points, just to help them figure out how to actually read, and read to make sense. We notice that a lot of the times the kids skip over periods and then they don't understand what they read. So that is going to be one of our goals. So day one, you're going to talk about the words and their meanings. Break them apart, chunk it up. Like in this word, you'll see the word every and the word where, and then they can put that together for the word everywhere. And so in this one, since it's a more of a nonfiction text, I would maybe go paragraph by paragraph, and the fluency isn't going to be anything elaborate on this because it is a nonfiction text. But I would maybe just model this first paragraph, have them stop and notice where you stopped. If you have a child who has a hard time remembering to stop at periods, another thing you could do is just have them go through and highlight or color each of the periods. And so it kind of signals their brain as they're reading that is a stopping point. So that's another thing that you can do with them on day one. And then just kind of read it through. So maybe paragraph by paragraph, or the whole thing, and have them notice that. In this one of the things I would notice is this exclamation point at the end. They should be changing their voice for that to a little bit more of an excited tone at the end there. So on to day two. Day two, you would go back and review some of those words, maybe even have them use it in a sentence, or explain it to you in their own words. And then after that, I would, again, read the passage together. So this time I would have them read it at the same time as you, either putting a pencil or a finger underneath as you read to keep track of where you're at. And I would do that together again so they're following with you with good fluency. And then I would have them read it to you on their own, just so you can be sure that they actually know what all the words are, and just a good practice for you to be monitoring that and helping them. Then after that, I would set a timer for maybe 3 minutes. And then what I have them do is I have them start at the top of the passage, read the entire time, not the entire passage per se. And so for 3 minutes, they're going to read, 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 read. And then if they get to the end and the timer has not gone off, they go right back up and they read it all the way through again, for the whole 3 minutes. And the goal of this is that these words just kind of automatically come out of their mouth, and they don't have to stop and think about the words that they're reading as much, just to kind of create some of that automaticity of those words, and just practice that fluency. So it's a less of a conscious thing by the end of the week. On day three, you can kind of do this however you want, but I would review the text together. So I'd reread the whole thing together. And then I have partner practice as the goal here. So one partner might read the first paragraph, and the other one might say, "Oh, you forgot to stop at the first period. Go back and do that again." Then you would go back and reread the whole thing, make sure that they fix that mistake, and then maybe do the second paragraph. And the partner might say, okay, you didn't pause here at this comma. And so then you might go back through and redo it again. The goal here is that if there is a mistake made, that you go back through and you read it again to fix that mistake. And then after the first person reads, then you'll switch roles and the second person will go through and read with the first person looking for corrections to make. Another option is right here, the alternating sentences. This one's harder, but some kids might have some fun with it too. Try to read sentence by sentence. So partner one would read this first sentence, partner two would read the second sentence, then go back to partner one reading the third sentence, and so forth for the whole reading. You can even read in silly voices. You can have them read to a stuffed animal, anything like that, just to practice reading that. Day 3 is meant to be more of like a practice reading it in a fun way, but also with the focus still on fluency, reading correctly, and paying attention to those things that we had mentioned earlier. Day 4 is probably going to be your fastest day. This is when you want them to read the whole passage independently. So they would just maybe read it aloud to you. You're, again, still going to be listening for corrections, but by day 4, they should be really familiar with the text and be able to read the whole thing without much help at all. And then another thing I wanted to talk about was different extension things you can do. So we have quite a few weeks of this coming up still, and one of the extensions you can do is have them find another book about the same thing. So any other books about soccer, find some similarities between them, see if there's any information that might be different. Or if since this is a nonfiction passage about soccer, maybe have them find a fiction book about a story of a soccer player or something like that. So that would be an extension. Another extension would be to have them draw a picture about what they read. That's great visualizing, so they can do that. And then the last thing you might want to consider is on day 1, having them just read it after they just skim for the difficult words. Read it and then mark how far they got. So I would maybe just say, let's say the first day they read until right here. So I would maybe just mark that. And then by day 4, or maybe day 5, I'd have them read it through again for like just a minute, just like the first one. Just time for a minute and see how far they get, mark it. Then the last day, have them read it again and mark how far they got. The goal would be to be farther than they were the first time because these words should be so much more familiar to them. These numbers over here on the side tell you how many words they got to at the end of that line. So if they read this whole line, that's 12 words. By the time they read this first line and the second line, they've read 26 words. So you can also kind of count that way. And that's what this box here on the bottom is for, is to keep track of the amount of words that they've read. So this is words per minute. And then each time they read it, you would write down how many words they read in that 1 minute. Don't worry about this bottom stuff here, but that would be a good way to keep track of how far they've gotten. And by read 6 or even by 4, they should be getting more than what they got the first read of that passage. So if you have any other questions about the fluency passages or what the goal of these are, please reach out to your child's teacher and they can kind of walk you through this. Again, any practice reading the text multiple times is going to help with their reading fluency. Hopefully this is helpful to you and you know what to do from here on out.